weekend racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 264. Mr. Samich.
Huzzah!
Happy Monday to you, man. We both had an exciting weekend for very different reasons, but I'm excited to talk about it and hear all about your travels and everything. How are you doing today?
I'm a little slow today. I'm not going to lie. It was. I'm still recovering from Saturday, but it was a blast of a time, man. It was awesome. Definitely love some Keeneland. I'm going to talk about that on the show today. Obviously, how about you? How are you doing, man?
I'm good. So the exciting weekend for us is that with the kid just a few weeks away, we've decided now is the time to go car shopping. So we have a lease that ends in June, and we're like, we should try and get this taken care of before the kid, because I'm not sure we're going to have a whole lot of time afterwards to go car shopping. So I did this 3 years ago. I got a really good offer from one dealer, and being in Los Angeles, we got a Honda the first time. You sneeze, you hit 3 Honda dealers. So I sent that offer, I went to every other Honda dealer and said, I want this Civic, I want this Civic, I want this Civic. Here's an offer I got for the same model, beat it. And then I played them all against each other. Do you want to know how much money I saved per month on the lease by doing that?
$62.54.
Almost double that. Saved $110 a month on a lease for a Honda Civic that doesn't have a very high lease price to begin with.
By the way, this is your most dad intro ever.
Sorry, I graduated. I've officially accepted. By the way, I'm sitting here with like car brochures on the desk. You want to know all about the Hyundai Kona Electric? I can tell you all about that at the end of the show. Needless to say, it saved a ton of money. The sales manager that day was very pissed off that we had done that, especially when I wouldn't tell him how I'd managed to get the salesperson to say yes. So now we're looking again. And Sunday we test drove a bunch of cars, got a nice offer on a Subaru Crosstrek. And boy, Mike, the email's been flowing today, man. My blood is just, it feels good, man. I'm pitting you against you and you against you, and I feel like I'm standing up for all the common people, like we do on the Magic Mike Show when it comes to helping you cash the bets. I'm out there fighting the good fight because fuck every single car salesman. I hate every single one of them. Every one of you is scum on the wall, and I'm going to treat you like that until I get a good price. So, yeah, things are going pretty great over here.
It sounds like you're having a very good day, my friend.
I just love watching them compete against each other, and they all scramble over themselves because they come in with a really highball offer. And then, when I come back with them and say, nope, never mind, yeah, they suddenly turn into scurrying little bitches. So as you can see, I really love car salesmen. I really do. Honestly, I do want to hear about Keeneland. Do you want to jump right into the best thing from this past week for you?
Yeah, best thing for me is it was actually the Keeneland experience. It was twofold. So first off, and I think you're going to be able to kind of relate to this. As someone who's lived in St. Louis, Chicago, Raleigh, and Los Angeles, when you tell someone you like horse racing, you get that look, right? Where it's like, huh? Like you bet on horses? You're like passionate
like the
about
Kentucky Derby?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's the Kentucky Derby, right? When you fly into Keeneland, you fly over acres of horse farms, and you land at the airport. And as you're landing, the one thing you see right before you land is literally Keeneland racetrack. So I landed right before the last race went off. The racetrack is across the street from the airport. And so you see over the racetrack, you land there, you get off the plane, immediately it's Calumet Farm. I think Oxbow's from there if I'm correct. And then you have Keeneland signs and everything. You go down the escalator, the baggage claim, there's a big stable dual sign. I felt like I was just at home when I got there. Very cool experience in that sense, where you just felt accepted and everyone's like, wants to give you a big hug around horse racing. So very cool in that aspect of it. And then, just going to the track, absolutely beautiful track. They ended up putting us in the Phoenix room. We were able to see some races outside. It rained the whole day. Didn't really matter. Had a lot of double whiskeys. And got to see some people that, like, one of the coolest parts about playing these tournaments is the people that you consistently run into. Ken Jordan, one of those guys that I sat down the first day at NHC, knew nobody. He was the next person who sat down at my table. He's an NHC Hall of Fame member and just immediately treated me right like a friend. And that was very cool. When we were at BCBC, Ryan, and I'm going to hope I pronounce his last name right, Ryan Notnick, or Nottek. was one of the guys in my room, and the two of us hung out for 2 days at the BCBC, and he ended up finishing 5th, and now listens to the show and watches the show all the time. So congratulations, Ryan. He locked up a BCBC and NHC seat. And then just having people come up to me, Danny Edwards came up to me, and his father was playing in the tournament, and he was able to be there, and he talked to me for a while. So just really cool to see all of these different people and be able to interact with them and just be kind of immersed in the horse racing world and everyone around you rooting for it. So highly recommend that if you ever get a chance to do these things. They're so much fun, and it's the people around that are all screaming and yelling at the same time. You felt the atmosphere at NHC. It's the same thing, except you're only betting Keeneland, and everyone has to bet at least $2,000. People are going nuts, man. It's a blast to play in these.
I'm jealous. I saw a couple of pictures. I think they were pictures taken after you had left Keeneland. So you were closer to Aaron Halterman than you were to me at that point in the day. We'll say that in terms of what your blood alcohol level. So, but it looked like you were having a blast. You got to see not only the NHC folks, but also some Magic Mike Show Army fans as well, which is how I saw those photos. But yeah, it sounded like you had a great time. So the rain wasn't too. It didn't. Not to be that shitty dad pun, but it didn't dampen your experience at all?
We powered through. We were the rainbow on that day, man. We were the sun shining through that rain and making it a good day. Now, honestly, I have not been to the track in 15 months. There was no way I wasn't having a blast at Keeneland. And it's cool because the room overlooked the paddocks. You could just look right out and see the horses before the race. You could walk out and see the horses. We were right at the 16th pole. So that first finish line, which is a very popular one when you rain off the turf there, was where we got to see a bunch of the finishes. So it was just an amazing day. Keeneland was absolutely beautiful. As Dr. Tang said, I cannot wait for Breeders' Cup 2022 when we can go back there. That's probably the next time I'll be at Keeneland. Jim Goodman did a wonderful job with the tournament. There were record entries in it this year, and everything was handled very, very well. It was just an awesome day.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, it looked like you're having a great time. And listen, even with the rain, you got to have the turf racing, which I was very happy when I saw Saturday morning that it was going to be yielding, but they were keeping the turf on. My first thought was, that's great for Mike, because Mike needs the turf racing to go his way to really help with these tournaments. That's your bread and butter. That's where you usually get your big bomb prices. So.
Well, but the turf races were tough for me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I had Intimistic was my big bet of the day, and she just got run down late when it looked like she was absolutely home. But it was a lot of fun. Did terrible in the tournament. Did great in cash betting. So it ended up a good weekend. We were happy about that. We were buying shots that night. It was all around good. I also want to shout out and make sure I shout out Rob White too, as part of the Magic Mike Army. Rob took down a nice little prize pool. I'm talking 5 figures and free trip to the Derby. Via one of the ADWs that sponsored it. And Rob was texting back and forth with me on Saturday, and he was able to hold off the competitors, and Rob had a very good weekend. So congratulations, Rob. Have fun at the Derby, man. Damn,
sounds like Rob should be on this show. Y'all out there doing great things, and I'm sitting here at home. No, congrats to you guys. That's awesome. I'm excited I think probably when Del Mar kicks off this summer, I think that's when I finally will be going back to the track. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Best thing that I saw is not all the Subaru asshole dealers falling over each other to give me the best deal. It's actually going to be related to Ed Olchuk. We know who Ed Olchuk is if you're a fan of horse racing. He commentates on a lot of the major NBC Sports broadcast horse races, especially for the Kentucky Derby. He's always a big fisher. Ed Olchuk, if you don't know, is in the United States Hockey Hall of Fame as well. He's a very talented NHL player. Great when he calls NHL games as well, back when NBC Sports still existed and was a thing. Well, his son, Nick, is the color analyst for the ECHL's Indianapolis Fuel. They're the ECHL minor league team for the Chicago Blackhawks. A couple of days ago, Nick Olchuk, I'm going to put up here on the screen if you're watching live or the replay on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, thanks for joining us. Right here, you've got Nick Olchuk and Ed Olchuk, and they're calling the game together side by side. And first of all, to have your idol, you and I are both announcer geeks enough to where we'd appreciate that if you got to call a game with your idol, you'd die inside. Let alone the fact that it's your father who's doing it with him. It was fantastic. And my favorite part is you never see this on camera, but they point at each other and they catch it out of their peripheral vision. And those are their cues for when I'm done talking, now you. It's watching this. I've seen this clip so many times. I'm like, wow, this is cool.
That is pretty awesome. I love the father-son thing. Eddie Olchuk had a battle with cancer and was able to beat that as well, which is pretty cool. And he's one of those guys who plays in all these major tournaments, and he is a big-time bettor and an owner too. So he puts money into the sport in a lot of different ways. Really cool to kind of see the father-son in the booth like that and to see them having a good time together.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Well, hey, we are not here to talk about hockey, even though the Detroit Red Wings robbed the Washington Capitals blind. We are here to talk about the Kentucky Derby prep action. The final Kentucky Derby preps were in the books this past weekend, Mike. We have a special guest that we're going to bring on after the break here to help us talk about it, analyze everything, including those Oaklawn Park late pick 4 tickets that, God damn it, Mike, we should have had. We were so close. We were on the right track. We'll talk all about that here in just a second. Let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, joining us here on the Magic Mike Show now is Mr. Aaron Halter from the Racing Dudes. Aaron, welcome back to the show. Good to have you on again, buddy.
I was looking forward to coming on all day, and I got to tell you something, Magic. My granddad was a card salesman for like 20 years, I think.
I knew he pissed someone off. I just didn't realize it was you.
So, Magic, and you'll get this joke, but we're even now, buddy. We're even.
Fair enough.
Okay, there you go.
That's all I needed to hear. That is all I needed to hear. We are even now. Well, next time you're in Los Angeles, buddy, I'll give you a nice drive around in that car, and we can go apologize to the dealers together in person.
Great, sounds good. No, I'm excited. I've got more feel good stories to go along with Mike's great weekend, so I'm really excited to kind of talk about it.
Well, the first thing we're going to do, and actually after I asked you if you wanted to come on, that you suggested we talk about is the mid-card pick 5 on Saturday at Oaklawn Park. And if you didn't know, Aaron is the one who puts together all the wagering guides at racenews.com. He put together the inside track wagering guide for the Arkansas Derby that did hit that mid-card pick 5. Mike Somich hit it as well, so I know it's going to be exciting to talk about it. I'll pull up the chart here. Aaron, go ahead and talk to us first about why you want to talk about the pick 5.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this because this was a Mike Somich lesson that I have applied after listening to this show. I looked at this as the most profitable opportunity for the pick 5 on the car at Oaklawn because I thought races 1 through 5 looked pretty chalky. You had that following C, the really nice Baffert horse that was going to be a short price. I thought there would be a short price in the third race as well. So I put together a pretty small ticket there. The pick 5, the late one, I thought would be pretty chalky as well. We'll get into that later, but I put a pretty small ticket here. But this one, I thought we could make some money, and the reason being is I thought we could beat Frank's Rocket, and I really loved Edgeway, and I did a Somich angle. And he says this a lot. You can knock out some players if you don't play them both. You pick one or the other. And I looked at it and I thought Frank's Rocket is going to be the most singled horse in the sequence. Let's beat her. Let's go again. So we went with Edgeway. Edgeway gets the job done. All of a sudden, I've got deeper coverage in more races as well because I've got more bullets because I singled right there. I feel like the guide hit this because of what Somich kind of preaches. So I wanted to start with that and say, boy, the ticket structure ended up working out. And a big bonus there, or a big thumbs up, I guess I should say, to Somich because, you learn things listening to smart people throughout the sport. And I really hadn't applied that until, last weekend, and it worked out.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. And I think the single here of Edgeway was a good one. I had the Sama Bombs. I had the 4 and the 5. I had a ticket that I was playing with Brian. We juiced it up and played it for a few bucks. And that one we singled up the 5 Edgeway to create some separation. And this is one of those examples, too, where when you have 2 horses in a race, if you take a stand, this horse paid way more than $1.30 to 1 in the pick 5 because Frank's Rocket, like you said, was the most singled horse in the sequence. And just going with the 5 and be able to separate it a little bit, that gave you a lot more value and was able to get to the other legs. If you did the win parlay on this thing, I mean, it's pretty low. And the pick 5 paid like $600. You had this horse was less than, was what, 6 to 5. You had a 2 to 1 or 8 to 5 winner in the last. You had a 2 to 1 winner or 8 to 5 winner in the third leg, surrounded by 5 to 1 and 10 to 1. And it shouldn't have paid this much, but the main reason it did is because Frank's Rocket got beat. And I think Edgeway played more like a 3 to 1 shot in this pick 5 sequence because of that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I kind of mentioned you kind of have some more bullets when you single that horse and take that stand there. And in the race before, the race lost the 5th race, the 6th horse, I had that horse. It was like third or fourth. Yeah, and boy, if that horse wins, and he looked pretty good, top of the stretch, even about 100 yards away, we're getting maybe double, triple what that payout was. So it's just a credit, to listen to the show. And sometimes you get something in your head, and 2-3 months down the line, boom, it's like, you know what? I think this is the opportunity to try to do kind of what he had said on the show. So it was good to hit this. And yeah, thank God Edgeway won the race, or I would be really pissed at you. So,
It looked like she was gone, and then it looked like she wasn't, and it got a little nervous there at the wire. But it was pretty awesome. By the way, how was Oaklawn?
Let's get into that, because boy, this was a much needed trip, and I am one of the very, very lucky ones that got to go to the Breeders' Cup. But you guys got to realize even though it maybe looked like there was a lot of people there on camera when they're showing the paddocks, there wasn't anybody there. And you didn't get that feel of that excitement and that rush of adrenaline as those horses crossed that wire. Boy, at Oaklawn, there were 17,000 people there. There's usually 65,000 for the Arkansas Derby, but 17,000 people were still enough to make a lot of noise. Very therapeutic trip. We've got to get more fans back to the track as soon as humanly possible, because it just makes the whole experience that much better. It was fantastic. It was fantastic being there.
You nailed it, man. I talked about it in the open. I mean, I got the Geist Paddle and I essentially sat together all day, and that is just so therapeutic to sit at the track with a friend and talk about horses. Like, there's nothing better in the world. And then to have, like I said, the other people come up and hang out. Like, it's amazing to be around people who are passionate about what you're passionate about and just having fun and enjoying the day. And that's something that we've definitely sorely missed over the last 18 months.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And like I said, I don't know, it's just that thrill of, when you're at the track and you see people and they're just going nuts, and it's like, yeah, that's like the passion that you haven't been able to see. We've tried to have live streams and have people kind of going crazy and yelling and screaming, but 6 people versus 15, 17,000, it's a huge difference. So yeah, it was like therapeutic is the best word to describe it, no doubt.
Well, Aaron said it first. Dr. Tang repeated it here in the chat. Listening to people smarter than you pays off. And listen, you're going to see me just take a back seat here. We're going to listen to the 2 smart people. We're going to go through the Oaklawn Park pick 4 tickets here.
Ticket structure wasn't very smart in this late pick 4, so I don't know about that.
Well, that's a good segue into it here. Race 10 kicked things off at Oaklawn. And by the way, before this, you had an exciting edition of the Oaklawn Mile where, by my standards, came and caught Rushy. He was, 2-1 versus 9-5 there, favoritism for Rushy. That was an exciting finish. Was that the point, Aaron, where you started to feel like things are we're gonna see some exciting performances? Because that's something you've brought up at Breeders' Cups before.
Honestly, 4th race when following C1 for Baffert, I thought, okay, now we're going to see some good horses, and we kind of did, And then my wagering got hot right around that time as well. We had some tries. And it's like, damn, we're back, this is place. But then it kind of falls apart at the end, we'll get to. But yeah, I mean, that Rushy, by my standards race, that was a classic race. We were right on the finish line for that one. And boy, we didn't know who won for the longest time. That was a really, really good race.
Well, one race where it was no question who the eventual winner would be was race 10. You had Mighty Mischief, the 7 horse, was the 4-5 favorite. This horse on paper just looked like a clear standout, went to the lead, and did exactly that. Mike and I both thought this horse was a must-use. Throughout this pick 4, we were trying to find some value. We thought that every favorite was pretty much usable, or defensively or otherwise. Here, man, the 7 looked like a strong winner on paper, and it paid off. Mike, I'll throw it to you first. Your thoughts on this horse, and do we see him in a Saratoga Stakes coming up in the summer?
You're going to see him somewhere in a stakes race, that's for sure. We talked about this. I was too deep in this leg in both the $5 and the 50-cent ticket. I was pretty confident in this leg with going just 7 and 5, and the 7 looked like an absolute monster turning for home. It was the 5 tried to range up and just upstriker and had no chance. And the 1 kind of ran on, but this thing was done at the 8th pole. We talked about it on the show, man. Atchison does very well with 3-year-old sprinters by Into Mischief. This is kind of his wheelhouse, and this horse looked darn good in this race. I would highly expect we're going to see a graded stakes, if not a grade 1, as the next effort for Mighty Mischief.
Aaron, you were there live. Did that look like the next big Asmussen Star sprinter that Mike is talking about? Yeah,
I'll reference Kelby Von Hemel a lot because I was with him for most of these races, and we love to sit there. It's kind of like you said, Mike, with Brian. You sit there and boom, you got a guy right there to bounce ideas off and thoughts off, and so I'll reference Kelby. We kind of looked at each other like, yeah, that's not the next Matoli, but that's the next horse that he'll try to do Matoli races with, basically. Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really good Steve Asmussen horse, just developing. He looked like he had a lot more left in the tank. This was kind of on cruise control, so that's always good to see as well. Yeah, you mentioned Upstriker. That was the other horse I used as well. Mike and I was just kind of hoping that Upstriker would get back to that 2-year-old form now that we've got him back going one turn, got him back against Allowance Company. Unfortunately, he faced a really, really tough horse here. So even if he runs well, he's not going to win. But he was disappointing, no doubt.
Yep. No, I agree. And it was interesting. Name Rejected in this race ends up running second and actually made me confident in a horse in the last at Keeneland too. So sometimes it's interesting when you're playing multiple tracks to notice who wins races, to be able to, and that was why I had a good day at Keeneland, was the last race. So it helps you realize why, or it helps you point to certain horses that you may not get to if you keep an eye on where other horses are racing and who they're facing and how they're finishing.
And I know exactly what horse you're talking about in the last, so maybe we'll talk about that.
Cronus, baby.
Oh, I'm sitting here going, who are you talking about? See, this is why you guys are the experts, and Magic sits here and presses the buttons.
Oh, there's a story behind Cronus.
Yeah, we'll finish that story when we get to Keeneland.
All right, well, I look forward to it. All right, so moving forward, with this looks like the next horse, as Aaron said, that Steve Asmussen is going to try and do Matoli things with. I like that. Let's make that a catchphrase. Name Rejected was a horse that I liked as well, and Game Day Play. Name Rejected gets second. We'll talk about what influenced him, but first, the biggest showdown we were all excited about, at least the head-to-head matchup. Race 11, this is the $500,000 Count Fleet Sprint Handicap. $500,000 purse is nuts for these 6 furlong sprinters. Whitmore versus CZ Rocket, their third straight race against each other, the second straight at Oaklawn, where Whitmore is the king. And yet, ironically, Whitmore got the jump on CZ Rocket at Keeneland. CZ Rocket now 2-0 against Whitmore on his home ground. I want to sit here and say that it's Florent Giroux as much as anything for why this horse was able to get the job done on Whitmore and Ricardo Santana Jr. But Aaron, being the person who was there live and a big fan of Whitmore, talk about this race and what you thought.
Well, I mean, obviously, as a fan of the horse, it's a little disappointing. But I'm not one in the camp that's blaming Ricardo Santana. I think CZ Rocket right now is just a little bit better of a horse. 2-length win, and we were watching. It's like, damn it, Ricardo, come on! Like, you got no room. And then it kind of opened up. He kind of had a clear run, and the guy next to me was like, here comes Whitmore. I was like, he has no shot. Look at the 6, just absolute flying. CZ Rocket beating fair and square. I think we could say twice now. And, it's not like Whitmore was embarrassing. He ran very, very well. But CZ Rocket's on another planet right now, and you just kind of tip your hat to horses like that.
Mike, one thing that when you and I were covering this race, we both said that if we had to pick between one or the other, we were going to go with Whitmore, and I know Aaron went that way with the guide too. One thing that you had brought up that I thought was a key point for why you would pick him over CZ Rocket is that CZ Rocket had never, since he got cleaned by Peter Miller, eclipsed a triple-digit Beyer speed figure. Well, I think he heard you because he gets a 101 Beyer here. Where do you see these two moving forward in the sprint division?
I mean, at this point, you got to say CZ Rocket's on top of it. And yeah, that was his career best Beyer at 6 furlongs. He's never run that well at 6 furlongs before. So interesting take there is 104 and 103 Beyers came at 7 furlongs and a mile and 16. So theoretically or technically, this is CZ Rocket's best sprint race in his career as a 7-year-old. So we'll just start there. I think what Aaron said was on point. I disagree a little bit with the trouble idea. I don't think it was Ricardo Santana's fault. I want to be clear. When you have a little bit more speed, you end up in that pocket position more often. And he just didn't get a lane. And the problem is that those horses were backing up. And so that meant he couldn't continue to accelerate. He had to kind of pause there behind those backing up horses where CZ Rocket just got rolling. And once that momentum started, Whitmore, and if you watch the last race, CZ Rocket ran down Whitmore. This one, Whitmore was trying to run down CZ Rocket. Because of Whitmore's general position in races, he should be the one in the lead and CZ Rocket should be the one coming to him. And then he has a chance to beat him. In this case, if CZ Rocket gets the jump on him, it's over. And that's exactly what happened. He was able to swing 5 wide, have no trouble, and hit his high speed first. And when he hit that high speed, Whitmore's not going to catch him. It's just being able to hold him off because he's in front of him already. So I think that the trip was a little worse than what it looks on paper because of when the moves happened. I'm not sure it made a difference in the race, though. That's the other part of this, where I don't know if Whitmore beats him, even if he gets loose when he wants to get loose. So I'm not ready to say that it's like slam dunk CZ Rocket's back. And if you flip the odds and CZ Rocket's even money next time and Whitmore's 2-1, I'll probably be betting Whitmore, not CZ Rocket. But I will not leave CZ Rocket off a ticket in the future. I'll tell you that much now.
One thing that Mike and I liked in this race when we were looking at prices was a 4 Strike Power. We both identified this one as the one where we thought we could get some value on him. And actually, 5-1 morning line was 4-1. So it did take a little tiny bit of a price. But this horse was coming out of a 6 furlong race that was faster than what CZ Rocket Whitmore went in the Hot Springs. And he did it with setting a pressured pace. His fractions ended up being faster in that race. Here, I want to know from you guys, do you think it was a matter of, he was being pressured by better horses and that took it out of him? Or did he just bounce because he got a 101 buyer for that race? It was a really impressive effort, second off the bench, and he was just a candidate to bounce.
I actually think he got a tough trip here. I think that the fact that Mr. Jägermeister, the 7, came up on the outside of him and put him in between horses mid-turn and forced him to make his move a little bit earlier than he wanted, created a situation where he couldn't win. I mean, he was sitting the perfect trip right on the flank of No Parole. And as soon as you saw the 7, Mr. Jägermeister, kind of start to angle up, he starts getting asked a little bit more. Strike Power comes up a little bit more. And it's just, it wasn't when he wanted to make his move. I think it forced him to move early. And that was a big factor into why he didn't run as well as he could have on this day.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't really have a whole lot to add to it. I mean, you can kind of pick and choose a few things. It wasn't ideal. Let's put it that way. It was not ideal. But I think for me, it was the margin of victory by CZ Rocket, where it was just kind of like, I don't think anybody was beating that horse today, no matter what happened. Samich, you said it best. I mean, maybe it's a length instead of 2, you know what I mean, or something like that. It wasn't the ideal situation, but CZ Rocket, he's got something special right now. I'm not quite sure what it is.
That super soldier of serum flowing through his veins, man.
Yes, he does. He looks. That was like that was the one effort that we saw where it's like, damn.
Yeah,
nobody could have beat that horse today. Like, that was a rocket launch, so to speak, around that far turn. It was pretty damn impressive.
Well, a horse that wasn't necessarily so impressive was in the next race, a horse that we all pretty much thought was a lock to win this race and go to the Kentucky Derby as your undefeated favorite. And that would be the 5 Concert Tour, 1-5 favorite. Barely even holds on to third. Man, and I played a show all bet because I was hoping he would fold like he did when he got passed. Almost paid off handsomely, missed falling off the board by a half a length. Instead, your winner at 12-1 from the rail, super stock from the barn of five-time Arkansas Derby world champion Steve Asmussen. Aaron Halterman, you were there live. The Grade 1 Arkansas Derby is one of your favorite races of the year. What'd you think?
Yeah, just like in 2007 when I went to the Arkansas Derby, Steve Asmussen won, and he wins it again here with Superstock, who got a very similar trip that Curlin got in 2007. Didn't quite impress like Curlin, but still.
So you're saying this is the next Curlin? Is that what we should take away from this show?
Breaking news: Aaron Halterman of Racing Dude says Superstock is the next Curlin. Got it. Let me tweet that right now.
This is why I can't go on the show, because you'll just splice that and post it on Twitter, and then everybody.
I know what the Open is now.
Yeah. No, not the next Curlin. Let me say this one more time. Not the next Curlin. But listen, we were absolutely stunned watching this race because, like every normal human being, we're watching Cattle River and Concert Tour because we're like, those other horses, forget it. And Kelby, on the turn, he's like, Cattle River is running a hell of a lot better. Like, he looks a lot better. He might be able to make a race of this. They come off the turn. Concert Tour kind of starts to put him away. And we're both like, well, we've seen this show 100 times here at Oaklawn. We've stood right here in this spot and watched Bob Baffert win races here by 3-4 lengths, and it looked like that was going to happen. All of the sudden, it's like Concert Tour kind of hit the idle button, right? And he was just like stopping. He basically stopped. This was after passing the horse that he tracked. And then here comes Superstock right on by. I mean, he passes him kind of like he's standing still. And so the first thought is, well, did Superstock just go crazy here? You look at the final time. Nope. That's a pretty shitty final time. You get up the next day and it's like, yep, 92 buyer. That's pretty much what we thought it would be. We said low to mid 90s at dinner that night. So you say this was just a trash effort by Concert Tour, and Superstock, obviously a very good effort for him, for his level, for his measure, as far as what we had seen from him, a jump up there for sure. And I have just a real head scratcher. I don't know how else to say it. I'm really thrilled that Steve Asmussen won this race. The Asmussens own this horse as well. So that was really cool to see. They were going nuts. I mean, they were out of their minds, going crazy. So that was fun to watch. But as far as the result, I got nothing. I couldn't have bet Superstock or picked Superstock ever in this race.
Well, I felt pretty dumb because I had a $30 50-cent pick 4 ticket on this show, and my third horse in this race, and I went too deep. My third horse was the one, Superstock.
My third horse too.
The reason was because I said on the show, if Concert Tour and Cattle River go at it, it's going to set up for the best closer, and I chose Hosier as the best closer, which was not a good decision. I should have gone with Superstock. I actually think Superstock ran huge for his talent level here. I mean, if you look at the internal fractions. Cattle River ran 22.62 and Concert Tour ran 22.71 in the first quarter of a mile. Superstock ran 22.88. He was less than a fifth of a second behind Cattle River on the lead. They had almost identical half-mile splits. They had almost identical mile splits. And then Cattle River and Concert Tour ran 26.41 and 26.37 for that third quarter.
Fast.
Or that fourth quarter. That is not good. Not good at all. And that was just... They stopped, and you know what? Superstock kind of kept going. I heard a lot of buzz about Get Her Number after this race. Tough trip on the first turn. But these horses were crawling up front at the end of this race. If you're that good, you're going to be able to make a move into those top 3 horses. And it's funny because we talk about looking at these charts that Magic has pulled up right now. The first 3 horses were 1, 2, 3 the entire way around the track. So it's not like the pace completely collapsed. It's just that the horse who sat third ended up having more down the lane than the 2 that banged heads against each other, and no one could make up any ground. And we're going to talk about the Lexington, and then we can talk about some pace collapse, because that, my friend, was an absolute train wreck from a front perspective. But this was 1, 2, 3 the whole way around. I think these are the 3 best horses out of this race. I'm not going to get behind the Get Her Number buzz. And, I mean, it's going to be awfully interesting to see what happens here moving forward. I don't really want Superstock in the Derby. I don't really want Cattle River in the Derby. I'm not really sure I'm willing to take a chance with Concert Tour, and Baffert's not even sure he's going to go there.
Well, let's go off of that. That's a great segue into my next question. Concert Tour, the quotes are sounding from Baffert, like Mike said, not so sure. And we've heard from a couple inside sources that are close to Gary Mary West, who bred and owned the horse. They're not sounding like they're confident either, and it's off of 1 loss. I mean, the horse has only made his 4th career start, but. I guess my questions for you guys, I have 2 of them. The first one, if you're calling the shots, would you send Concert Tour and or Cattle River? We'll talk about both of those together. Would you send them to the Kentucky Derby? And then do you think the connections will actually follow through with that? Mike, you started us off, so I'll go back to you.
I would expect Cattle River goes. I'm not sure about Concert Tour. And I think the biggest story here is if these 2 don't go, the pace all of a sudden slows down again in the Derby. Yeah, this is 2 of the that are going to heat it up. So I think these are important horses to be at the Derby if you want a more competitive race in that sense, because they will guarantee pace. And there's others that were in there that want pace too. So I think the biggest story with the 2 of them going or not going is going to be the opening half mile of the Derby.
Chris Mael, one of our longtime Magic Mike Army members, says, I would send Concert Tour to keep Uncle Chuck company. Uncle Chuck is still trying to finish last year's Traverse, I believe. Aaron, what would you do if you were the connections for Cattle River and Concert Tour as far as the Derby goes?
If they're healthy, if they've got 4 legs, I'm sending them to the Derby if they've qualified for the Derby. So if it's me, I don't care how they ran that last race. If they're qualified and they're healthy, they're running. As far as the connections, I think Concert Tour will just come down. He'll work him in a couple of weeks. And if he works well, he goes. And if he doesn't, he won't. I mean, I really think that's all that comes down to. Cattle River is kind of interesting. I think those connections will want to run in the Kentucky Derby.
It's a homebred from Kentucky.
It's really hard for me to see Cattle River skipping.
Yep.
I think Brad Cox, he probably wants to skip it, but I don't think he's going to make that final decision. So I think honestly, my gut is both these horses will be in the Kentucky Derby.
I agree with you on that. I think that those 2 will go. And I talked to Jared Welch actually this morning, and he said, and I agree, that Concert Tour sounds like they're going to bring back to Santa Anita. They'll work him once. You'll hear from the Santa Anita media department that he worked perfectly. He's going to Kentucky Derby as the news breaks on Twitter that he's skipping and he's off the Triple Crown Trail. So that's what I expect to happen. That tends to be how it goes with the Baffert barn. Any other thoughts on this field, gentlemen, or do you want to move on to the 4th and final at Oaklawn?
I do just want to say that this absolutely screws everything up.
Right?
I mean, this race, this 6-horse
It depends how you look at it.
It screws everything up.
I'm excited now.
I'm not that excited. It really makes things a mess. The one thing I will say, anybody that plays Get Her Number, if in any kind of decent race next out off of this, you really need your head examined. I mean, these horses ran, I think it was 1, 2, 3, and then they ended up running 3, 1, 2, and they walked. They absolutely freaking walked home. And Get Her Number, I don't give a damn if Get Her Number fell down at one point in the race. This horse should have been the winner if it's any good. I mean, period. This horse is like, oh, look at this horse flying late. No, the horse really wasn't flying late. The other ones were walking, and you were running semi-fast. So it was an optical illusion, basically.
In comparison, too, just to kind of hammer home your point, Get Her Number went from the 6 furlong to the 1 mile point in 26.29 seconds. Concert Tour, who was stopping, went in 26.37 seconds, 0.08 seconds different. So it's like, and in the last 16th of a mile, Get Her Number comes home in 13.2 seconds. And Concert Tour comes in 13.72. Superstock comes in 13.18. So it wasn't even the last 16th of a mile. That came from the one-horse Superstock. So, I mean, I get there was a trouble in the first turn, but the second-place horse here, came home in 40 seconds for the last the last 3/16 of a mile. That's slow.
It's not great.
No.
I think the term for that, Mr. Samich, is stumble bunnies.
It's tough to call Grade 1 horses stumble bunnies, but it is fairly accurate in this case.
Do you remember Nucky? That's a stumble bunny Grade 1 winner. Let's move on to the fourth and final Oaklawn Park. Race 13 is a maiden special weight route, and you had a lot of horses that bred to route, had been doing 6 furlong sprints at Oaklawn. Mike and I really wanted to spread here because we thought there's a lot of great options, and I will give us credit because we loved the one, Continental Coins, who's your winner. He was 6-1 on the morning line. He's never gone off less than 6-1, and he's your 2-1 favorite. Son of a bitch. Mike, I wish we could get that 6-1 price on the win, but if you were alive to this last leg, you probably got the value out of the pick 4, especially with Concert Tour losing. So we were right about this horse. Boy, that horse that almost beat Man of Gravity we didn't have. We were very much against, and that almost cost us, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to have the winner on top here, but after that, I definitely didn't have anything underneath that was accurate. And the frustrating part is when you have 2 on top winners, and the third one CZ Rocket, and your third pick in the other way wins it, and you don't have the pick 4, not a great feeling. So it was nice to get this horse home or have it win, but it was frustrating not to hit this sequence.
Aaron?
Yeah, I'm the same way as you guys. I had the 1, did not have the 5. Of course, it didn't matter because I didn't have the 1 in the last race. So that was, he was number 1, right? No.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not crazy. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing. The real disappointment, I used the 11 time as yours. That was funny. The horse, like throws his head up in the air and says no, and he's like 6 lengths behind and never even picks up his feet, or 6 lengths behind the last place horse and never picks up his feet. So that was fun to watch that with the trainer standing right there.
I was going to say, you were with a trainer too. How do you feel about that trip?
He didn't feel real good. Yeah, he didn't feel real good. Before the race, he's like, yeah, you can come back and you can watch him and he'll cool out and you can pet him. And after the race, he said, why don't you guys just go eat? So we went and ate. We didn't go pet the horse. So
no pets for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Kelby said, I'm going to go kick him in the belly real quick, and then we'll go eat. No, he didn't do that, but we wanted to. But, yeah, he was awful. Yeah, this race was a really good, a lot of Oaklawn races, a really good finish on Saturday, and you're right. Boy, I wish we were alive to this one because that would have been a real nice sweat there because I didn't really know there at the end. But, yeah, good race. This is a decent horse. I think this horse can move up and run with allowance horses next out and be competitive.
I thought it was funny. I just saw Jared's comment that the thing about Concert Tour being think of it this way, Halterman, Concert Tour losing saved you from picking the wrong horse in the Kentucky Derby. Now you just got to pick the right one. But that did definitely save a lot of us for that one. If it will ever show up, which doesn't look like it wants to. I had a list for the road to the Kentucky. There it goes. All right. So, Aaron, while we have you, I actually just finished before the show started editing the Kentucky Derby top 20 rankings that are coming out on Wednesday at racingjuice.com. Here's the list here. Essential Quality is your overall points leader for the Kentucky Derby. Hot Rod Charlie second. Superstock third. Aaron, you've watched the show. You know how we do this, so let's go through it. We lost the feed. All right.
Mike, I pulled it up. It's echoing with it up.
It was echoing with it up. I think that's Aaron because I still hear the echo. Nope. Nobody knows. Nobody wants to take ownership for it. Fine. We'll just move on. Essential Quality is the top horse. Points wise, he's going to be everybody's favorite. I saw he's 5-2 trading at Circus Sports in Las Vegas as a favorite. That's a really short price. What are we doing here, Aaron?
I mean,
is this not the toughest Derby to handicap in years now?
It's a huge problem because he, on paper, like as far as a resume, huge standout. He's the only one that has really shown well. The only one that has a long list of dirt consistency. Let's put it that way. I think you have to use him, but I'm not going to put him on top.
Mike?
I mean, I think Essential Quality is definitely a must-use horse. I don't know how you don't use Essential Quality. I think you probably have to use Highly Motivated because if you're using Essential Quality, I think you kind of are stuck with using Highly Motivated too. This is the deepest I'm going to go in a Derby in a long time. I mean, I'm looking at this here, and I feel like I got to get my head around Rock Your World and Known Agenda. Those are the two of the question marks to me. Known Agenda's the Florida circuit has been terrible, but Known Agenda blew the Florida circuit out. And so now I have to decide whether or not that was a good effort, or that Known Agenda is a horse you need to use. Rock Your World had never touched dirt and ran his tail off. You got to decide whether or not Rock Your World is a horse you need to use. For me, Mandaloon, who I thought was the best horse in Louisiana and was a no-show. I don't think we actually know how good Mandaloon is compared to Hot Rod Charlie, who is 2 on this list and is now the wise guy horse. I think Mandaloon is one you probably have to include. I kind of like Sainthood. I think and I haven't even gotten to any Baffert, to talking about anything around the pace. I mean, this is going to be a very tough Derby to digest and get to a winner. I think that means it's going to be a great betting race. And you know what? In a field of 20, man, I mean, anything could happen here. This could be an absolutely crazy result. And so I'm in the superfecta PS is going to be ridiculous. Like that, it's going to be so hard to get the top 4 in order here, especially if Essential Quality doesn't end up winning. I mean, one of my best, who's the second favorite and what do they go off at? 8-1, 7-1,
what was it? It was 6. I think Hot Rod Charlie was 6-1. No, Rock Your World and Known Agenda. They were second choices at 5-1. You have Essential Quality at 5-2, and those two are at 5-1.
So Hot Rod Charlie, when he won the Louisiana Derby, I got the bright idea of, okay, everybody's going to forget about Hot Rod Charlie because we're going to see some good performances, and he's going to be like 12, 15-1, and I love it. I'm all about him.
Not a chance.
He will be 5-6-1 now, and it's like, ugh, I don't want to do that. It's unreal what has happened.
What do you do with Concert Tour at 8-1?
First of all, he's got to be not 8-1, right? He's got to be like 12-1, 15-1, and you think he's below 10-1?
If Baffert
I can't do anything with him.
If Baffert has one there. I mean, how was Authentic 8-1 last year?
I know. Well, here's the problem with Concert Tour. I was talking to Stillman about Concert Tour. I said, here's the big problem with him. Okay, say we can find something and we draw a line through the Arkansas Derby, which I'm not saying we can right now, but say we can, pretend we can. What other race are you looking at from a speed figure perspective that you're confident that he's going to run well and be able to beat these horses? These horses are running low speed figures, and he's lower than 5 or 6 of them. The big deal with the Arkansas Derby is he's got to run a fast figure. He's got to show that he can do that before Kentucky. He did the opposite. I don't know how you use him.
I'm so scared of leaving Baffert out of the Derby. That's my biggest problem.
Especially at a price. I'm with you, Mike.
I don't get that. I mean, I do get that. I do get that. Yeah.
So, I think that we're going to – I would lean toward not using Concert Tour than using Concert Tour. But, man, it's just one of those horses that you're going to be just scared shitless for when they're loaded into the gate, because that's the one that could get you just on any given day. That horse might end up running huge. But yeah, I think it's going to be really – I think the post position draw is going to be massively important this year. I think whether or not horses like Cattle River and Concert Tour go is going to be massively important this year from a pace perspective. So this is one of those where, often – I mean, I think for the most part, we knew who our Derby pick was 3 weeks in advance. After the last prep this year, I have no clue who my Derby pick is. Nope. Not a clue. And that means it's a great betting race. It's going to be really entertaining. And you have a lot of smart people have different opinions, which is one of the reasons we love horse racing.
Yep.
Also means you can make some money. So I'm excited to see how this goes down.
This Derby is the toughest one that I could ever remember. Even I think the Always Dreaming type Derby, which was a very wide open field, I had a horse at this time that I was going to pick. It was the wrong one, but at least I I won't say really confident, but I kind of knew, yeah, I'm going to go Irish War Cry. I think he's coming around really well. That was horrible. But yeah, you're right. Like, truly believe for the first time since I've been doing this, I may not know my Derby horse until like they draw the race. And not to say that if I had American Pharoah and then he drew the rail, I wouldn't have changed. But going into the draw, I knew who I was going to pick as long as it wasn't a disaster. This year, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out here to Captain Corner in the chat. It says it's crazy that the top 2 horses now, at least points wise, and I think in some of our books they're right at the top. Yep. They were the exact in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I mean, it's one thing when the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner goes to the Kentucky Derby. That's Jared Welch puts together the facts about the Breeders' Cup in advance of the wagering guide, and that's his favorite thing to do with the Juvenile is that they don't usually go to Kentucky Derby to win, but you can at least trust the Juvenile winner to get there. But the top 2, that's a crazy one to me.
Not only the top 2 in the leaderboard too. It's a crazy, like he says, it's absolutely nuts that they both, especially like I remember watching that race and being like, well, that might be a Chuck race, and here we are. It's 4 months later, and they're number 1 and number 2 in points, and legitimately number 1 and number 2. That's the thing. Like they both won major preps to end the season. They both consistently have been running well. Like, yeah, I gotta figure out if I can get my head around Hot Rod Charlie. I know you love him, Aaron. I still.
Well, does it help, Mike, that the news broke this morning that Flavien Prat is going to be Hot Rod Charlie's jockey? Joel Rosario took too long or whatever, and Doug O'Neill said, fuck it, we're going with Prat.
Yes and no. I mean, I can also make the argument that means he thinks Concertor is better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so like it's a positive and a negative here, right? Well, like I like the idea of having that jockey who just wants that horse, and when you're Joel Rosario and you have the choice, I mean, yeah, the fact that he didn't come off that race and immediately say with the speculation the Concertor might not go. He didn't immediately say, I'm on Hot Rod Charlie. Tells you what he thinks of those 2 horses, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's the way I looked at it too, Samich. I thought I would wake up Sunday and I'd have a text from Magic saying, hey, Joel Rosario is going to ride Hot Rod Charlie. And I'm like, I never got it. I was like, who's riding? It's like, this is so weird. I'm with you. It's like, after that, how can you not jump on a horse that's ran a 99 buyer and won at 1 mile and 3/16 and took pressure and cleared horses in Louisiana? No, I'm still on Concertor. Okay,
it's a red flag. But
it's weird.
Every single horse on this list has a red flag except Essential Quality. It's why Essential Quality is your favorite or will be your Derby favorite on race day. It's how heavy of a favorite I think is going to be really interesting. Based on when I posted who's the favorite, and every single person immediately Essential Quality. Yeah. I mean, this horse goes 8-5. Do you want anything to do with 8-5 in a 20-horse field with this? Like,
no. With a horse that runs like this?
Yeah.
No.
If I may make one last ditch attempt to say that Pratt going to Hot Rod Charlie is not a bad thing. There was a horse a couple years ago that got 3rd in the Arkansas Derby and then went to the Kentucky Derby, didn't have a rider. And Flavien Prat's agent at the time said, hey, I got a good rider here. Let's put him on Country House and see what happens. Who knows? We'll figure things out. All he did was win the Kentucky Derby that year. So just saying.
But he ran 2nd in the Kentucky Derby. Also, to our point, it's not that Pratt picks up the mount. It's that Rosario didn't immediately want the mount. That is the difference. It's like adding Pratt is a positive for Hot Rod Charlie. Duh. But the fact that Rosario didn't say, I want to ride the horse that just won the Louisiana Derby, who's won at 1 mile and 3/16. I want to wait to see if the horse that just quit running a really slow time, the Arkansas Derby, is going to go to the Derby so I can ride him instead, is where the issue is.
I mean, is he trying to stay loyal to Baffert? Is that part of it too?
I think that could play into it. But this is also the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, you would think as soon as Superstock went flying past him, like he would have thought, oh shit, I guess I'm riding Hot Rod Charlie. Like that should have been like the moment that Rosario, committed to Hot Rod Charlie. If he had a cell phone in his pocket, he's calling right after that, right? I mean,
should have just written on your form and handed it to him, Aaron, so we could hold it up.
Well, I mean, I yelled at him. He went right by me. I said, Hot Rod Charlie, son of Oaklawn, Calumet Farm. You won the Preakness, But anyway, one other thing, Essential Quality. He did beat Superstock in the Breeders' Futurity by like 6 lengths. So there's another feather in Essential Quality's cap.
He's done nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong.
0.
Deserving favorite in the Derby. It's just how low of a favorite you're willing to swallow.
I went into the year, I was like, I'm going to beat him first out in the Southwest. And then we got Southwest Day came, and I'm like, no, he'll beat those horses. Then I thought, I'll beat him in the Bluegrass. Bluegrass came, I was like, no, he'll win the Bluegrass. Right now, I'm like, I'll beat him in the Kentucky Derby. Hey, by Thursday of that week, maybe it's Essential Quality again for me. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of replays to watch, interesting post-position draw, and then we'll see where we end up.
Well, luckily we still have 2.5 more weeks to just overanalyze the shit out of this, and there's nothing really else that'll be happening in the world of horse racing. But before we go, we got one last race to talk about here. Let's go to Keeneland, the Grade 3 Lexington Stakes. This is a Kentucky Derby prep race in name and the fact that 20 points went to the winner, but it's not going to be enough to put the winner, King Fury, into the Kentucky Derby unless he has, I believe, even with Proxy and Weyburn dropping out now, 6 more horses ahead of him need to scratch. So it looks like he's going to the Preakness Stakes, which is not the worst move in the world for him because, as Saratoga Slim told us, 3 of the last 5 winners of the Lexington finished third in the Preakness. That means Saratoga Slim says he is a lock to finish third. Single him there at the bottom of your tries and in your supers. Aaron Halterman, I know you had to watch it at Oaklawn where there's a lot more exciting things happening than this race, but what do you take away from the Lexington?
I'll tell you what, kick it to Somich. I agree, Somich. I don't know why you just did that because Somich was there live watching. So kick it to Somich first and then I'll comment.
And this was more exciting than the Arkansas Derby. I mean, I was able to get a beer, a hot dog, and a double whiskey in the final furlong of that race. Come on. Look, this was a classic pace meltdown. And we were outside. It was me. It was guys. Dylan Donnelly was there watching this race with me. And we were sitting there watching this race, and they throw up 45 and change, and we just started laughing. I think Brian Lilly said, "Who's in last right now?" Because it was going to melt down, and you knew it. And we talked about how much speed there was on the inside, specifically the 1 and the 2. And then you have Baffert bring Bezos in here, the 3, and they just hooked up and went at it. And they all could have done great in a 5.5 furlong race, but it's a little bit longer. This was a mile and 16th. And one of the low-rated, underrated rides that both Hernandez and Julian Leparoux gave these 2 horses, because if you watch the 2 of them versus your favorite Proxy, they make middle moves, secure the rail, and literally are following each other on the inside. And Proxy's 5 wide, swinging way outside. And then your eventual winner, King Fury, is able to tip right to the outside of the 1-horse here. Noble Reflection, who was in the lead at the top of the stretch. And then you had the 5-horse, Unbridled, who tipped out right behind him. And they ended up going 1-2 in the race. This was a really good race. I mean, Unbridled Humor ran big in second. King Fury, I thought, ran pretty big in first. I want absolutely nothing to do with either of these horses again at the price you're going to get them next time because they need this type of pace setup to be successful. But it was highly entertaining in my mind because you knew someone was going to come from the back and a lot of it was going to be trip.
Now, Aaron, you can talk.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. King Fury's got to need some help. Going to need a lot of help in front of him. But there's a lot of horses that might help him. What if Cattle River doesn't go? What if Concert Tour doesn't work well before the Derby and he doesn't go? All of a sudden, he's in play. Listen, as shitty as this field is right now, if this horse gets in.
Oh, I know. It's because it's a Curlin.
Well,
we're going full circle here.
It is that, and then not to steal your job here, but you kind of look good over the slop. I kind of agree, Dr. Tang. He might be usable. I'm not saying he can win, but this is a usable horse if he gets in. He ran a race better than most that we've seen the last 3 weeks, right? I mean, if he ran that kind of race in the Florida Derby, he may have won it if he was there,
No, I agree with you. And this is kind of weird, but look at the juvenile. Same fractions in front of him at Keeneland, mile and a 16th. And he wasn't able to do anything against Essential Quality or Hot Rod Charlie. Now, obviously, he's a 3-year-old now. He's progressed quite a bit since then. Does that give you any type of pause in your argument?
They're running similar figures, and he seemed to take a step up. It could have been the slop.
Yep.
It could have been just a meltdown. But I liked how he looked. And I'm wanting somebody to show me progression. Essential Quality seems like the same horse as a 2-year-old as he was as a 3-year-old. Who is a horse that's maybe he's getting better. I don't know. Maybe it's King Fury. Listen, I don't think push comes to shove I could pick a horse like this to win the Kentucky Derby. I'm just saying he might be playable. Underneath, or maybe if you're going to go deep, I think probably a lot of us are going to go deep in this race. Maybe he gets on the ticket. I don't know. I don't think it's crazy.
I agree with Nick here. I think Known Agenda is the horse that we've seen take a step forward. And he's had some serious progression in the 3-year-old year. So he would be the one that I would make the argument is that step forward horse. I also agree with you. I think King Fury could pick up some pieces and run 4th or 3rd at a big number. Like that I think is definitely possible. I think it'd be pretty tough for him. He tripped out into a hot pace with not great horses. Right. I mean, that to me was the reason why. Now, the numbers came back pretty good for this race. And so but looking at the second horse, again, like looking at Unbridled Honor, who ran whose highest buyer coming into this race was a 77 and a maiden special weight at Tampa. That's the horse that runs second and gets a 90 buyer. Kind of makes me a little more concerned about the form from this race and whether or not those numbers are 100% accurate or if it was just because of kind of how the track was playing and how they took to it.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. To the point of Known Agenda, I agree. He definitely is getting better. I mean, he made a nice jump. Now, here's the problem. He's still a bit below. Can he make one more jump? That's the question on him. Listen, he became, after he won the Florida Derby, we were like, yeah, forget it. Now it's like, yeah, I can play him. I can definitely play him.
And on that same topic, I mean, the king of progression here, the trainer that we've seen go from 0 to 4, 5 horses in the Derby gate, Pletcher. And that's where, like, for instance, the 5-horse here, Unbridled Honor, Pletcher. The Agenda, Pletcher. Sainthood, Pletcher. All these horses that we do see taking steps forward, Pletcher. And so that might be something that you want to look at if you're looking for those horses in the Derby.
Yep.
And on that note, Prime Factor just returned to the workout tab over the weekend. So we've got that going for us as well.
He's coming. He's going to get there.
I don't know what
how many horses need to drop out of the Derby for him to make the gate?
All of them. All of
Half
them.
The country?
Well,
I think the 4th place horse in Japan gets in before he does.
does Collaborate get in before Prime Factor? That's the question.
Would it be earnings? I think he would.
I think he would. Yeah.
0 points.
No, Prime Factor's got points. They're not many, but he's got like 5 or 6.
Oh, he does. That's right. That's right.
He got second and third.
Line through him. Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah, we're in.
Let's do it. Preakness, baby. No, none of these. The last horse I want to touch on real quick, Proxy. I think this puts the final nail in the coffin for him as far as trying the Triple Crown and Dirt. He is a half-brother to Micheline, who is a multiple stakes winner on turf, owns a record at Kentucky Downs, and a great distance turf horse. Proxy, we know, can handle distance. I think, guys, this is a horse that if and when he shows up on the turf race, you got to give him a real close look there.
Nope.
No.
Depends where he shows up. I am pretty unenamored by Proxy at this point. I mean, I thought he was for sure the 3rd best of the 3 horses behind Mandaloun and Midnight Bourbon down in Louisiana. I think that this completely validates that opinion. And look, the horse didn't run terribly, but he could have run a lot better here. I mean, this race was ripe for him to win, and he couldn't get it done. And that, his numbers towered over this field going into it. And I was pretty disappointed in how he ran here.
He sucked.
Oh, he definitely sucked.
I don't care what they do. Turf, synthetic, pavement, don't care. Don't want anything to do with them.
All right. Well, Juliet Foxtrot got her first Grade 1 win in the Jenny Wiley. That's awesome. She wired the field. There were 6 horses. We don't need to talk about it, but we'll talk about who Nick Feldman is calling your 2021 Travers Stakes winner, Stage Raider, the younger brother to Justify. I saw a funny tweet. Someone was calling him the half brother to the Lieutenant, the Grade 3 winner, the Lieutenant on Twitter. He gets the job done here. Helps Vinny from Real Dynasty Picks cash a $10 pick 3 and the 50-cent pick 4. So congrats to him. He also had the exacta in the Lexington. So Vinny paid for the new basement he installed over the weekend just at the Keeneland. Guys, Stage Raider, Travers, what do you think about this horse?
This was the 1 3-year-old where Kelby and I kind of looked at each other like, damn, he just ran away. But it was over the slop, so I'm going to pump the brakes as far as calling him a Travers winner. But he's got a lot of talent. I mean, Samich, you were there live, so go ahead.
Yeah, he looked amazing. I mean, that's the bottom line. Aaron and I talked about this card prior to the card. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate you taking the time. And we talked about Stage Raider. We thought he'd be overbet, obviously, out of the prevalence race. And you have Gasly, who's not very good, running 3rd in that race. But look, Stage Raider ran off the screen here. And I agree. I'm a little concerned it could be heavily slop related. You have a Pioneer of the Nile who's the son of an Empire Maker. You've got Stage Magic, who's the daughter of Ghost Sapper. That's a very heavy mud pedigree when you're looking at it. So the horse should take to that type of track. But this was a huge return effort. I mean, this horse got, a 95 buyer? That's a big number, especially for second time out. I mean, I'm interested to see where Stage Racer ends up going. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a undercard graded stakes at the Derby, or even straight to the Preakness or something like that if Brown wants to get a little crazy here. Because the horse has the pedigree. It's lost to prevalence and then ran off the screen here, so there's nothing wrong there. So I'll be interested to see where they bring this horse back, because I do think you're going to end up seeing this horse try and make a very quick progression to the grade 1 tier of the 3-year-olds.
So, Aaron, this is what happened in the Magic Mike Show. We just pause for a few seconds, and then we just keep going. We don't talk for 10 minutes. Okay. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Special thanks to Aaron Halterman, the Racing Dudes and Blinkers Off, for joining us here. Congratulations to anybody who got to cash in on the mid-card pick 5 at Oaklawn Park. Paid very nice, and it was all thanks to Mr. Aaron Halterman's work on that one. And if you've been cashing in with the Sama Bombs, we're going to thank the guy right here next to me, Mike Samich. You can follow him on Twitter at SamaBomb18, number 1, number 8. I am at Curtis Kellerword. He is at Racing_Dudes. Mr. Samich, the Sama Bombs, you didn't connect, but I got a feeling this coming weekend you're going to get right back on track.
Yeah, I mean, Thursday wasn't bad for the Sama Bombs. That was okay.
That's
we had a $3,000 pick 5, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, we hit the mid-card pick 5 at Oaklawn on Saturday on the Sama Bombs as well. And then I was frustrated by that late pick 4 at Oaklawn, man. With the 1 is the deep ticket, and you're only 3 deep. I mean, it could have gotten there, and just if I had gone with the 1 instead of the 3 as the closer too, I used the freaking other Baffert. Anyway, yeah, we're going to be back at it. Plan is to have grids up on Wednesday and Thursday for Keeneland, and then this is the last weekend of the Keeneland meet, so I got to play Keeneland this weekend too. So I'm assuming it'll be a 5-day Keeneland week here, but stay posted. You can follow me at SamaBomb18. I'll make sure I post up in the morning of the day, and make sure you check back, because the grid only sometimes come up around 11 o'clock or so, since we're just waiting for the changes and there aren't tickets there.
We will be back here on Thursday. Some people asking in the chat. We'll be back on Thursday at our regular time, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. But this is going to be the first show where we do a preview with a fan selecting where we go and submitting a ticket as well to be read on the show. Dr. Tang, you saw him in the chat earlier. He is our first guest, so he will be picking the track. Dr. Tang, you got until Wednesday. You're in California like me, so you got until Wednesday at 3 p.m. to let me know where we're going, and then send us your tickets Thursday morning. But we'll be in touch on that. Aaron, one last big weekend, at least as far as grade 1s go, at Oaklawn Park. You looking forward to the Apple Blossom? You got Monomoy Girl Swiss Skydiver. What's not to love?
Yeah, this will be just as good as last weekend as far as the racing on the track at Oaklawn. You got the Oaklawn Handicap as well, which is going to be kind of that competitive field. And then you get the Apple Blossom, which is the showdown. Yeah, sure wish I was heading there. Unfortunately, my unfortunately for my trip to Oaklawn, my mother-in-law is coming tomorrow. So
that's okay. Your mother-in-law doesn't listen to the show.
You're right.
She's not. Is she a Magic Mike fan?
I think she does, maybe. No, maybe not Magic Mike. Maybe just Blinkers Off. But yeah, she's coming to visit. Actually, it's great. She hadn't been here in a long time, so it is really good. Yeah, it is no trip to Oaklawn for me, but I'll definitely be watching.
Well, I can definitely tell because it looks a lot cleaner in your house all of a sudden. I see vacuum tracks. Looks like Heather made you clean up and take a shower. So, yeah, that's getting ready for the mother-in-law coming in. So we went a little over time, but thank you, everybody who joined us. We're very lucky that we had Aaron here to talk about it, so hopefully you learned something from the show. We'll be back. Dr. Tang says we're doing Keeneland, so we'll be back 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific here to cover Keeneland Saturday late pick 4 sequence on the Magic Mike Show. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike. And he's Aaron.
And he's Aaron. We'll see you on Thursday. Until then, good luck this week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.